Religion and Deception. Professor Edward Sutherland coined the phrase white-collar crime, and he used that to describe behaviors in persons not thought of by the public as crime or criminals. They were crimes committed by persons on respectability and high social status in the course of his occupation. Not likely that he was thinking of clergy or priests with actual white collars when he coined the phrase. However, over time it has unfortunately become common. There are many types of white-collar crime. Consumer fraud, computer fraud, government crimes, and medical fraud. All of these are harmful, but the focus of this presentation is on religious fraud and scams and how the people that perpetrate these scams prey on people's faith and trust in religion. There are elements needed for the scam to be successful. First, victims must have faith and belief in religion. If they don't have faith and belief in religion, they probably aren't going to a church where this could happen or involved with the church. Secondly, the victims must have trust in their religious leaders. Without that trust, they won't believe what they say, and they won't be likely to turn over their money or their properties or any other thing to the religious based white collar crimes. Character traits are the same as they are for con artists and scam artists around the world. There's greed involved, corrupt morals, a distorted view of religion where they feel that the church and the congregation is to serve them instead of the other way around, and an overdeveloped sense of spiritual power. They feel they have a healing influence over people. They have extensive religious knowledge, and their position in the church makes them better than most people. A lot of the church leaders have been involved in certain scams over the years. Some of the most famous are Sun Myung Moon. He is a leader of a neo-Christian sect named Unification Church. His anti-communist stance made him very popular with the conservatives, and his followers, called Moonies, raised millions of dollars, which eventually found their way into his pockets and resulted in him going to jail. The other one is Henry J. Lyons. Henry J. Lyons was a reverend and president of the National Baptist Convention USA, one of the largest African American Protestant denominations, almost 1 million members. And he was selling non-existing church membership lists and trying to sell insurance and credit cards and all kinds of things to church members, which was for a profit for him, not for the church. He was found guilty and convicted, 5.5 years in jail, had to repay $2.5 million. Then you have Randall Raddick. Randall Raddick was a pastor of the First Congregational Church of Ivy, California. What makes him especially distasteful in religious scams is that he preyed on his congregation of elderly people. His congregation made up of mostly elderly people. And he created false documents that he was able to use as collateral for loans, and false documents that gave him the right to sell the church, which he actually did at one point. He got a reduced sentence by snitching on another inmate. So he continued his scamming ways even. The next is religious affinity scams, better known as Ponzi schemes. They are defined by the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission as investment fraud that involves the payment of purported returns to existing investors from funds contributed by new investors. Organizers often solicit new investors by promising to invest in opportunities claimed to generate high returns with little or no risk. And the focus is on attracting new money to make promised payments to earlier stage investors and to use that personal expenses instead of engaging in any legitimate investment activity. A couple of Ponzi scheme masters that have come around. The first one is Reed Slatkin, high-ranking member of the Church of Scientology. He befriended several financially well-off members of the Church of Scientology, and he was able to defraud these church members out of $600 million, eventually charged with 15 felony charges. The other is Abraham Kennard. Now, he was scammed African American churches out of nearly individuals out of nearly $9 million. And the way he did this was in churches would pay him fees, and in return he promised loans and grants to them so that they could repair their churches or build new churches. And instead he was taking this money and not making good on his promises. He was eventually convicted of money laundering, conspiracy, tax evasion, and mail fraud. One of the most common scams that everybody's familiar with are televangelists. Not all televangelists scam, but there have been some in the past that have given all of them a bad reputation. They became popular in the 20s and 30s with the help of radio. As they continued to be on the radio, and they started to gain popularity with television. And in the 80s and 90s, they became even more popular because of television and cable TV. Now, they continue to be popular today, and they're also using new technology with internet access, blogs, webcams, podcasts, and they're using this new media to get their message across. Here's just a few of the most recent televangelists that have been out there and the ones that people are familiar with. Pat Robertson, who was the Christian Broadcast Network leader, also a presidential candidate in 1988. Oral Roberts, founder of Oral Roberts University. Robert Schuller, syndicated Hour of Power broadcast. You can find him on cable TV. Jimmy Falwell, the president of Liberty University. And of course, Jimmy Swaggart, who mostly is famous for my generation of his confession, his tearful confession on national TV, and his apology to his congregation for using prostitutes, pornography, and voyeurism. One of the most famous and sensational scandals involved Jim and Tammy Faye Bakker. Jim and Tammy Faye were the leaders of the Praise the Lord Ministry, PTL. They were members of the Assembly of God. And they were able to raise large amounts of money, promising, among other things, nights at the PTL resort. Jim became involved in a sex scandal with the church secretary, Jessica Hahn. It made national news and brought the PTL to the spotlight. And that continued with the IRS investigation into the Bakker's tax returns and the PTL's tax exemption. Now, Jim Bakker was convicted or indicted on 24 counts of fraud and conspiracy. He was convicted in 1989 for fraudulently raising more than $158 million, which eventually the judge in that case, very, very strict judge, sentenced him to 45 years in prison. That was later reduced to 18 years, and he was paroled in 1994. During his incarceration, Tammy Faye filed for and was granted a divorce in 1992. Now, as a result of the PTL scandal, which was very public, there was some damage, which continues to this day for the televangelist. It brought more suspicion on the church, or from the church members, and oversight from government agencies. And they are still able to raise money, and they raise a lot of money, but they are not raising money as easily as they used to, and that doesn't. Now, in summary, we discussed religious scams, how they rely on people's faith and beliefs. They've been around as long as religion, and they are committed by not only church people but the leaders of church and organizations. They involve large sums of money and a wide variety of victims. And we know that these scams will continue as long as there are people willing to use religion for personal gain. That concludes